My stepdaughter never spoke when we were alone, only cried. Her mom laughed it off. She just doesn't like you. Then one night while her mom was out of town, the little girl whispered, "Daddy, look at this," and pulled something from her backpack. What I saw made me call 911 on the spot and exposed a dark secret that shattered everything I thought I knew about my wife. I married Tessa thinking I was stepping into a new chapter of life, a family, a home, stability. She was brilliant, confident, and had this fierce independence that pulled people in. When she spoke, people listened. When she smiled, rooms lit up. But there was always something she kept guarded. Her daughter, Lily. Lily was 7 when I met her, quiet, polite, but distant. Every time I visited Tessa's home, Lily would quietly retreat to her room or sit in the corner with a book, her eyes flicking toward me like she was watching a threat she couldn't name. I tried to break the ice, brought her little toys, offered to read stories. She'd nod politely or whisper a thank you, but never more than that. "She's just slow to warm up," Tessa would say with a shrug, brushing it off like it was nothing. "It's been just the two of us for a long time." I didn't push. I figured time would help. After all, I wasn't trying to replace anyone. Her father had been out of the picture since she was a baby. All I wanted was to be a good stepdad, a steady presence. After we got married and moved in together, the cracks started to show. Lily didn't just avoid me. She seemed scared, not of me directly, but of being alone with me. The moment Tessa left the house, Lily would start to cry. Not screaming or tantrums, just silent, shaking tears as she sat by the front door or curled into herself on the couch. I asked her what was wrong. She'd always shake her head, never saying a word. I tried everything, cooking her favorite pancakes with chocolate chips, leaving notes in her lunchbox, asking to watch her favorite cartoons together. She never engaged, never smiled. When I brought it up to Tessa, her reaction made my stomach turn. She laughed, not in a dismissive way, but like it amused her. "She just doesn't like you," she said with a smirk. "Don't take it personally." I tried to explain how unsettling it was, that Lily looked at me like she expected something terrible to happen. Tessa would wave me off, tell me not to psychoanalyze a child. "She's just sensitive. You're overthinking it." I wanted to believe her. Love has a way of clouding your instincts. Then came the business trip. Tessa had a 3-day conference in New York. She hesitated at first, unsure about leaving Lily, but I told her it would be fine. Maybe, I said, this would be the chance for Lily and me to finally connect, just the two of us. No distractions. She kissed me goodbye at the door, told Lily to be good, and left. I remember watching her car disappear down the street, feeling hopeful for the first time in weeks. The first night, Lily barely spoke. We watched a movie, but she kept the blanket up to her chin and didn't look at me once. She fell asleep on the couch with the television still flickering. The second night changed everything. I was folding laundry in the living room when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Lily standing there, holding her school backpack tight to her chest. Her eyes were glassy but focused, like she'd made a decision and couldn't turn back now. "Daddy," she whispered. That word alone stopped me cold. She'd never called me that before. She stepped closer, slowly, like approaching a wild animal, and unzipped the backpack. Her hands shook, but her eyes didn't leave mine. "Look at this." She reached inside and pulled something out. Something flat, folded, a piece of paper. I took it from her carefully. It was a child's drawing. At first I thought it was just one of those odd, imaginative scenes kids come up with. Colors in all the wrong places, shapes that didn't make sense. But then I saw it clearly. A stick figure in a pink dress, standing next to a taller figure whose face had been scribbled out with black crayon. They were in a bedroom. A red smear was drawn on the bed, and scrawled above them, in uneven, panicked red letters, "No, no, no." In the corner of the paper was a speech bubble from the scribbled figure. The words inside stopped my heart. "Don't tell, or Mommy will leave you forever." I dropped the laundry. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. Lily stood there silently, watching me, not afraid this time, just waiting. I didn't ask questions. I didn't wait for Tessa to come home. I pulled out my phone and called 911. That was the moment everything changed. The 911 operator picked up before the first ring ended. 911, what's your emergency? I could barely get the words out. My stepdaughter. She just showed me something. I think someone's been hurting her. She's 7. I don't know what I'm looking at, but it's not right. It's not okay. Is the child in immediate danger? No, I said, my voice shaking. Not now, but she was. Please, just send someone. Fast. Help is on the way. Stay on the line. I looked at Lily, still standing there, waiting for me to do something. Her face was unreadable, like she'd spent years learning not to show anything. But she looked relieved, like someone had finally listened. I hung up the call when I heard the sirens approaching. I met them at the door, a police officer, a second in uniform right behind him, and a woman in plain clothes who flashed a CPS badge. Mr. Carver? The officer asked. I nodded. Yes. Come in. She's inside. The CPS worker knelt in front of Lily and introduced herself as Jenna. She spoke softly, carefully. Lily didn't speak, just stared. Then after a few moments, she nodded. I handed the drawing to the lead officer. He studied it, his mouth tight. She showed you this tonight? Yes, just a few minutes ago. Did she say who the man in the drawing is? She said she doesn't know his name, only that he comes over when her mom isn't home. The officer and CPS worker exchanged a glance. Where's your wife now? He asked. In New York. Business trip. Left 2 nights ago. And before this, you had no idea? No, I said. I thought she didn't like me, that she was shy. Tessa told me not to worry. The CPS worker asked to speak with Lily in another room. Lily nodded again and followed her without a word. The officer turned to me. We'll need to take the drawing, and we'll want to look at any digital devices, laptops, tablets, phones, especially anything your wife uses. Do we have your permission? Yes, take whatever you need. They started their work. I sat down, numb. A few minutes later, one of the officers called me over. He held up his phone. Do you know a man named Logan Franks? My stomach dropped. Yeah, he's my wife's co-worker. Why? He turned the phone around. Security footage. Time-stamped from 2 weeks ago. It showed Logan entering our neighborhood at 2:14 a.m. He didn't knock, didn't call, just used the side gate, walked around the back, and unlocked the door. He had a key, I whispered. The officer nodded grimly. We thought you should see that. The implications hit me all at once. Tessa had given him a key. He came here in the middle of the night, when I wasn't home, when Lily was alone, and I'd been living under the same roof, blind to all of it. I went to the bedroom and grabbed every device I could think of. Our shared laptop, Tessa's iPad, even the old phone Lily sometimes played games on. The officers began sifting through everything. It didn't take long before one of them called out, "We've got something." On Tessa's iPad, hidden under a fake calculator app, they found a locked folder. Inside were dozens of photos and messages between her and Logan. Some of them were innocent enough, others were not. One message from Logan read, "She doesn't say a word. I told her what happens if she does." Another from Tessa, "Just be careful. I don't want John asking questions." And the one that tore me apart, time-stamped the morning she left. "She's still crying after your last visit. You need to cool it for a few weeks. I'll be gone for 3 days. Do not go to the house while I'm away." She knew. She didn't just know. She planned around it. She told him when it was safe to come. She warned him not because she wanted it to stop, but because she was afraid of being caught. One of the officers looked at me. "We need to talk to your wife. Is she reachable?" "She's landing tonight. She called earlier. I didn't pick up." "Call her. Put her on speaker. We'll listen in." I picked up my phone and hit redial. She answered on the first ring. "Hey, babe," she chirped. "Just landed. Can't wait to see my baby girl. How's Lily been?" My voice was flat. "I have a few questions." There was a pause. Sure. Why did Logan have a key to our house?" Silence. Then, "What?" "I saw the footage. He came in at 2:14 a.m., didn't knock, used the side gate." "John, I don't know what you're talking about." You do. I saw the messages, the ones where you told him not to come while you were gone, the ones where you said Lily doesn't say anything. Another long silence, then, you went through my private messages? No, I said. The police did. She gasped. They're with you? They know everything. Lily told me. She showed me a drawing. She started sobbing, loud, performative, frantic. I didn't know how to stop it. I thought she was exaggerating. Logan said she was confused, that she made things up. I just didn't want to lose my job. John, I didn't want drama. She's 7, I said, barely able to speak. She cried every time I was alone with her, and you told me it was because she didn't like me. You knew what he was doing. You didn't stop him. You helped him. She kept begging, pleading for a chance to explain, to fix it, to talk later, alone. I ended the call, then I turned to the officers and said, do whatever you have to do. Tessa was arrested before she even made it to baggage claim. The moment her flight landed at JFK, 2 detectives were waiting at the terminal exit with a warrant. The evidence had already been transmitted to local authorities. The texts, the photos, the audio of our call. She didn't fight. She didn't ask why. She just started crying. Not for Lily, for herself. Back at the house, the investigation shifted gears. The officers continued to search through every device, every email account, every corner of our digital lives. They were looking for patterns, for proof that this hadn't been a one-time mistake or lapse in judgment, and they found it. On Tessa's old laptop, one she hadn't used in months, was a backup folder from her phone. Inside were older messages between her and Logan, stretching back nearly a year. The content painted a full picture. He had been in our home regularly. Tessa had coordinated every visit. In one message, Logan wrote, "That spare key under the planter still there?" Tessa replied, "Yes. Just remember she starts crying if she hears the door creak. Be quiet." Another exchange chilled me. Tessa, "She told me her stomach hurt again. Said it happens every time after you leave." Logan, "She's just trying to get sympathy. You know how kids are." Tessa, "I can't deal with this guilt trip. You need to be more careful." There was no ambiguity. She knew. She minimized. She enabled. Meanwhile, Lily was placed into protective custody, pending further interviews and evaluations. I visited her as often as allowed, supervised at first. Each time she'd edge a little closer, speak a little more. She stopped flinching when I entered the room. The police began tracking Logan. He hadn't returned to the house since Tessa's arrest, but they suspected he knew something was wrong. He hadn't shown up to work, and his phone had been powered off since that morning, but he didn't get far. 2 days after Tessa's arrest, Logan was picked up outside a motel 2 counties over. He was using a false name and carrying a duffel bag of cash. Police seized his laptop, phone, and several external drives. He didn't speak during the arrest. He didn't resist. But what they found on his devices made any denial pointless. Encrypted folders, images, videos, some linked directly to the dates and times Lily had drawn in her crayon sketches. His bail was denied. Tessa, now in custody, tried to walk back her involvement, claimed she'd been manipulated, that Logan had lied to her, that she didn't know the full extent of what he'd done, but the evidence told a different story. The timeline of messages showed she was aware from the beginning. She may not have participated directly, but she made the visits possible. She provided access. She discouraged Lily from speaking out. Even worse, she tried to maintain a facade. She left voicemail after voicemail on my phone, pleading, apologizing, insisting she could explain. I didn't answer. I gave them to the detectives. One message stood out. "John, if you just let me talk to Lily, I know I can make her understand. We can fix this. We can be a family again." There was nothing to fix. The damage was permanent. At a pretrial hearing, the assistant district attorney outlined the charges: child endangerment, criminal conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and accessory to multiple counts of aggravated abuse. The court moved quickly. The evidence was overwhelming. The public outrage enormous. Logan's charges were worse. The digital evidence alone was enough for a decades-long sentence. And Lily's testimony, when she was ready to speak, confirmed it all. With the help of trauma counselors, she gave a detailed account of what he had done. Calm, precise, like she'd been carrying it too long and was finally ready to let it go. The day Lily testified, I sat in the back of the room. I wasn't allowed to speak, to interrupt, or even to comfort her. But she glanced at me once, just once, and nodded. That was enough. Tessa didn't show up in court that day. Her attorney said it would be too emotionally taxing. But Logan was there, shackled and silent. When Lily identified him as the man from the drawings, he looked down at the floor and didn't lift his head again. Outside the courtroom, a reporter shoved a microphone toward me. "Do you have anything to say about your wife's involvement?" I paused. She had choices. She made all the wrong ones. But Lily, she's still here, still standing. That's what matters now. I refused further comment. The media frenzy grew louder with every court date, every leak of evidence, every update from the DA's office. But I stayed focused on the hearings, on the paperwork, on Lily. Because the hardest part wasn't the arrests or the charges. It was convincing the system that I could be Lily's guardian, that I, a stepfather by marriage and not blood, had a right to raise her, to protect her, to help her heal. I didn't know if I'd win, but I knew I had to try. The process of gaining custody of Lily wasn't fast, and it wasn't easy. Even with Tessa in jail and Logan under federal investigation, I was still just a stepfather. On paper, I had no biological claim to Lily, no adoption papers, no legal guardianship, just a marriage license and a broken household. But I wasn't walking away. I hired an attorney the day after Logan's arrest. She warned me up front. The courts prefer blood relatives in these situations. Grandparents, uncles, aunts, even distant cousins usually got priority over step-parents. But once she reviewed the evidence and heard what Lily had been through, she agreed to take the case. While she filed emergency motions, I did everything else. I spoke with CPS almost daily. I met with child psychologists and trauma counselors. I completed parenting evaluations, submitted to background checks, and agreed to monitored visits. Each time I saw Lily, she opened up a little more. She'd never ask about her mom. She never asked why Logan hadn't come back, but she did ask if she could stay with me. That first time, she asked it so quietly I almost didn't hear her. We were sitting at a table, supervised by a social worker, doing a puzzle. She wasn't even looking at me. "Do I have to go back there?" she whispered. I shook my head. "No, you're safe now." She thought about that for a moment, then said, "Can I stay with you forever?" I promised her I'd do everything I could. It wasn't just court appearances or paperwork. It was proving that I could be the stable presence she needed, that despite everything she'd endured under the roof we once shared, I was not part of the danger. I was part of the solution. After 3 weeks of supervised visits, the court approved overnight stays. That first night she slept at my place. She didn't say much. She picked a spot on the couch and curled up with a blanket, facing the door. I stayed awake most of the night, just in case she needed anything. In the morning, she asked for pancakes. It was a small thing, but it mattered, because before, she wouldn't even sit in the kitchen with me. Now she was asking me to cook. As the hearings for Tessa and Logan ramped up, I submitted every piece of supporting documentation I could. Character references, transcripts of my 911 call, the digital evidence, even the transcripts of Lily's therapy sessions, with approval. I needed the court to understand. This wasn't just about custody, this was about survival, about healing. The court finally set a trial date for Tessa. Her defense attorneys tried everything, arguing she was manipulated, that she was emotionally dependent on Logan, that she hadn't fully understood the implications of her actions. But the evidence crushed every excuse. The messages, the access she gave Logan, the hidden folders, her voice on the recording, acknowledging that Lily had cried after Logan's visits and telling him to cool it while she was out of town. The prosecutors didn't need to paint her as evil. They just showed her negligence, her cowardice, her choice to protect a predator instead of her child. She was charged with child endangerment, obstruction, and conspiracy. The DA added an additional charge of aiding and abetting sexual abuse. Her defense team pleaded for leniency. The judge wasn't interested, Meanwhile, Logan's situation grew worse. Forensic experts decrypted his devices. The images and videos he kept were tied directly to Lily and at least two other victims in unrelated cases. Federal prosecutors took over, elevating the charges to include possession, distribution, and production of illicit materials involving minors. His trial was moved to federal court. No bail, no plea deals. By the time summer rolled around, I had full temporary custody of Lily. She started sleeping through the night. She smiled more. She asked to draw again. Her drawings changed. No more scribbled faces, no more red-streaked beds. Now she drew trees, dogs, and people holding hands. One picture showed two stick figures, her and me, standing under a blue sky with the words, "My safe place," written in the corner. I pinned that one to the fridge. The day of Tessa's sentencing, the courtroom was full. Media, advocates, a few of her extended family members, all trying to make sense of how a woman with a solid job, a child, and a stable life could let this happen. Tessa never looked at me once. When the judge read the sentence, 14 years with no possibility of parole for the first 9, she just sat there. No reaction, no tears this time, just silence. Afterwards, someone asked if I felt any satisfaction. I didn't, because justice isn't satisfying. It doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't make Lily forget what she lived through, but it does something else. It makes sure no one else has to suffer from the same person's negligence. Logan's sentencing came a month later. 25 years. No parole. I didn't attend that hearing. I didn't need to hear another judge describe what we already knew. I stayed home with Lily. We baked cookies. She told me a joke she'd learned from her counselor. I laughed, not out of habit or politeness, but because, for the first time in months, I actually felt something close to peace. That night, after her bedtime story, Lily paused at the doorway of her room. "Can I call you Dad now?" she asked. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. She smiled and closed the door behind her. 3 months after Tessa's sentencing, the court granted me permanent guardianship of Lily. The judge reviewed all our case files, psychological reports, home evaluations, and therapist statements. In her ruling, she noted that while I had no biological tie to Lily, I had demonstrated consistent, unwavering care, and had been her sole advocate when no one else stepped up. Her exact words, "This child has already lost too much. Stability matters more than biology." That sentence stayed with me. We moved shortly after, not because we had to, but because Lily asked to. Too many bad memories in that house. Too many rooms that reminded her of things she wanted to forget. So we packed up and left the state. I found a remote job that allowed me to stay home with her full time. And we started fresh in a quiet town where nobody knew our names. At first, she struggled to adjust. New school, new surroundings, new everything. But over time, she began to thrive. Her teachers noticed she was quiet but attentive, polite kind. She made friends, started joining clubs, even tried out for a school play. She didn't get a lead role, but she didn't care. She was just happy to be part of something. Every week we met with a child therapist. Lily worked through her nightmares, the trust issues, the fears that still hovered just beneath the surface. Some nights were harder than others. Sometimes she'd wake up crying and need to be held for hours. Other times she'd go silent, barely speaking for days. But she always came back, always asked me to stay close. So I did. She never once asked about Tessa. No letters, no phone calls, no requests, and I didn't push it. When she was ready, I figured she'd decide if she wanted that door open, but so far she never has. On the anniversary of the night she showed me the drawing, she asked if we could do something special, not to celebrate, but to mark the change. So we started a tradition. Every March 12th, we donate to a children's advocacy center in her name. She gets to pick the items: books, toys, journals, art supplies, things she says made her feel safe again, things she wishes someone had given her earlier. One night, while we were sorting through the donation box, she paused and looked at me. "Do you think I'm broken?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I needed her to understand the truth. "No," I said. "I think you were hurt, but I also think you're healing, and healing doesn't mean broken. It means you survived. She nodded and went back to sorting. There's no clean ending to a story like this. No moment where everything feels perfect again. There are good days and hard ones. But the difference now is that Lily doesn't face them alone. She knows someone will show up. Every time, without question. That realization has started to shape the way she views the world. She wants to be a social worker when she grows up, says she wants to help kids the way others helped her. A few months ago, she gave me a drawing, just like the first one, but different in every way that matters. Two stick figures holding hands under a sunny sky. No scribbled faces, no red stains, just smiles. One figure was labeled me, the other, Dad. That one stays in a frame on my desk. Sometimes people ask me if I ever regret marrying Tessa, if I feel like I wasted years of my life, and I always say no, because Tessa didn't give me a family, but Lily did. She made me a father, not through marriage, not by name, but through trust, through love, through survival. There's a saying I used to hear, blood makes you related, loyalty makes you family. Now I know it's true.